Welcome, guys! The North American Championships have wrapped up, and we are here to break down the top 16 decks that defined the meta. From innovative strategies to the toughest matchup, we got it all covered in this ultimate report. Stay tuned, and let's start with the first deck. The first deck in our list is by Philip Esline, a red-blue deck. He plays 4 Typos, 1 Sisu, um, 2 of the I call it the hand Sisu. He plays 1 Mulan, 4 Grammatalas, 4 Hirams, 3 Mauis, 2 Lady Tremaines, 4 Maui Shark, 2 Sisus, 4 Sail the Azurite Sea, 4 Visions of the Future, 3 Brawls, 4 How Far I Will Go, 2 Let It Go, 3 A Pirate's Life, 3 Be Prepared, 1 Ruby Chromic, 1 Shield of Virtue, 4 Popsicles, of course, and 4 McDuck Mana. What I think is really interesting about this list is that he's not playing any Lucky Dimes, any Mauis. Sorry, not Mauis, I mean Tamatoas, of course. I think all in all, the deck goes around that Maui Shark for gaining that extra lore instead of the Tamatoa and the Lucky Dime. I think it's all really interesting to play that 4 cost Unink Mulan that has Rush and has like 4-3. I also think A Pirate's Life fits perfectly with that Maui Shark in here because after you get like that one attack with Maui Shark, you can always recycle that Pirate's Life. Of course, also that Let It Go as a removal is also pretty obvious and pretty good because you gain that lore extra for Maui. For all those hyper aggro matchups, you always have that 3 cost Sisus, both of them pretty good, and of course the 8 cost Sisu, which you can shift on them if it's necessary. And we see here like 2 Lady Tremaines and no Bendusas. Maybe I would consider to like remove that Mulan and add like a 4th Maui or 1 Medusa into it. I think also cutting Brawl to 3 is like really risky, but I mean it worked really well for him. Congrats on that, and I think it's like a really spicy deck list, and I congrats on the top 16. The next deck from our list is the deck from Justin Shaft. It's like Amber Steel deck. I don't know if it's like a real Amber Steel song deck. It's more like a Dwarf's Mine deck. We play 4 Cinderellas, 4 Daisy Ducks, 3 Happies, 4 Lilos, 4 Piglets, 3 Calhouns, 4 Dogs, which is like a really amazing card in this deck. We play 4 Smies, of course, 4 Lawrence, 4 Pete, 4 Rapunzels, 3 Plutos, 3 Gantus. We play 4 Let the Storm Rage On, 4 Strength of a Raging Fire, and 4 Mines. I think this deck's like really interesting because it goes at the beginning. When the deck came out, you really thought it will be like a Steel Song deck when you go turn 1 Cinderella, turn 2 Smee, and so on. But with all those mines and with all those knights, with the dwarfs like Happy and Dog you have in your deck, you have like that extra removal in your deck, especially if you have also a white spreaded deck and you play the Pluto out. It's like a really hard deck to beat, especially in the early game if you don't come up with this tempo of the deck. I played against this a few times, and going first against this deck is going quite well, but like if this deck goes first and it gets the tempo it needs in the early stages, it's really hard to come back because meanwhile he's making the tempo and removing your characters with songs and the mine, you always have to like find an answer to his characters that gain lore. So yeah, all in all, you also have that Smee that gets like -1 health like every turn, and you can always heal it up with the Rapunzel. And of course with the Pete you can like if the opponent plays like a threat like the Ursula and you are not able to remove it, you can just like play the Pete and like stall the game for one more turn, which is like really much for this deck, because like one turn can change the whole game. And yeah, all in all, congrats on making it to the top 16, sorry, just a shaft. And yeah, let's go to the next deck. The next deck we have in our list is from Patrick Cotier. It's an Amethyst Steel deck with 4 Channelbox followers, 4 Diablos, 4 Magic Brooms, 4 Madam Mimps, 3 Calhouns, 4 Dogs, 4 Smees, 4 Madam Mimp Fox, 3 Merlin Crab, 4 White Roses, 4 Pete's, 4 Genies, 4 Merlin, 1 Bell, 4 Elsas, 1 Franz, and 4 Strength of Raging Fire. I think this deck is pretty good to have an aggressive start and to like make tempo against your opponent. But the thing is here, I would consider to play like a few Zeus in this deck, maybe some Fire the Cannons to like remove the threat of Diablo, which wasn't played that often in this meta, but I still think you should like have always 1 or 2 Fire the Cannons in your decks if you play this deck. Obviously the Bell, like I would put it like to 2 or even to 3, because it really does her job really well. The next thing here is like you need that early aggressive start, and you're doing it if you have like those 12 one drops in the start, especially when you can like bounce them, replace them, and play them again, and so on. Diablo and China Box followers mostly get you like to draw 1 card. If you play against hyper aggro yourself, you always have the Magic Room and the Merlin like to boost the Magic Room and to like remove all those bigger threats in the beginning. Of course, the dog is like, I think the dog is like the MVP of this tournament, especially because of those when you play this character, you may discard your hand and draw 2 cards, like always to renew your hand if you need it. And of course, the Elsa and the Genie also working really well against the Diablo, obviously. But maybe for the start, I would like consider to play like 1 Fire the Cannons or 2 Fire the Cannons. I mean, the Strength of Raging Fire is also pretty okay, but I think it's coming way too late. And as I mentioned, like I would play like 1 Zeus or 2 Zeus just to get like those removal options against Steel Song. So yeah, all in all, congrats on the top 16, and let's go to the next deck. The next deck in our list is made by Pierre-Marc Duquier. It's all again a red-blue deck with 4 Tippos, 4 Grammatalas, 4 Huron Flavisham, 3 Mauis, 1 Madame Medusa, 3 Maui Sharks, 3 Sisu, 4 Tamatoas, 4 Maleficents, 1 Hideaway, 4 Sail the Azurite Sea, 4 Visions of the Future, 4 Brawls, 3 How Far Will Go, 2 A Pirate's Life, 3 Be Prepared, 2 Vitalis Spheres, 2 Ice Blocks, 4 Popsicles, and 1 Lucky Dime. I think this is a really good list. I think it like looks a bit better than the list we had before. I would like consider to play like a 4th Maui Shark, especially if you have those actions and songs in your deck, like Hideaway, for example. It's like just a small song, but it's like 1 action you are playing, you know. And Maui Shark always gives you that 1 lore, and it's like really important to get that through, especially if you also play A Pirate's Life, How Far Will Go, and so on. So I think also pretty obvious. This is a great list. I would like consider maybe to play 2 Tamatoas, or maybe 3, to like get 1 of those Maui Sharks in. I can understand why you play 3 Maui Hero of All. I would maybe cut the Maleficent Dragon, to be honest. Maybe add like here the Madame Medusa P-Prep, for example, or some other actions like boost them up, for example, How Far Will Go to 4 and the Pirate's Life to 3. But all in all, it's a pretty good list, and I think this is like a really consistent way of winning with the Maui Shark, especially because you have all that removal in your deck. So congrats on top 16, and let's go to the next one. Now the spice comes up. Next up, we have a Blurle deck in the top 16, which is pretty amazing by R&B. Congrats, man. And I saw some posts about having like a really hard time to decide which deck to play, and I can feel that in this meta it was like the hardest meta for me personally to like guess which deck to play with. Me personally, I will always go with Emerald Steel, but even for me, I had like the decision if I shouldn't play another deck because it's like really hard to like predict this meta. Here we can see 4 Chatterbox followers, 4 Diablos, 2 Magic Brooms, 4 Madam Mim Snakes, 4 Tippos, 4 Madam Mim Fox, 3 Merlin Crabs, 4 Genies, 4 Merlin Goat, 3 Merlin Rabbit, 3 Bell, 4 Elsas, 2 Donald Ducks, 3 Hades for the removal, 3 Elsas for locking up the game, 4 Sail the Azurite Sea, 4 Friends of course, and 1 Let It Go. I think this is a really nice deck. I think it really works well because you're like always gaining that lore and that lore and that lore. And it's like really hard to control this deck. And because of the ramp you have, you also like you're playing out all your big characters really out fast. And of course the Genie and the Merlins, both Merlins, Merlin Rabbit and Merlin Goat are like really doing the work here. Especially if you can bounce them back and back and back again. Next thing also really important are those 1-drops, and Diablo is like always like passively gaining your 1 lore or you gaining like 1 card from him. Chatterbox Falls doing the same, just like 1 turn later. And with the Elsa, the 5-cost Elsa and the 8-cost Elsa, you also have like a shift option in this deck, and you also have the Bell that can remove up to 3 damage from a chosen character to another chosen character, opposing chosen character, yeah. And I think all in all, that's a great list. Congrats on making it to the top 16, man. I think this is like a great idea, and yeah, let's go to the next deck. Next up in this list, we have the deck of Zac Bivens. Amethyst Steel, great deck. As I mentioned before, it's like really similar to the last one, especially. But the difference is we have those Along Came Zeus, which I mentioned before. I think this is like the best thing you can do in this deck. Like add those Zeus and add those Strength of Raging Fire. You don't need the Bell here anymore because you have that removal options now. Of course, the deck is doing what the deck has to do, like gain lore pretty fast and like securing the win in the later game, like in the mid game. And I think Zac Bivens again showed like that you can make a good deck even better with some small additions. And yeah, congrats on making it top 16. I think he made it to the Worlds. Congrats on that, man. And yeah, let's go to the next deck. Next up in our list is Steel Song by Sean Long. He plays 4 Cinderellas, 3 Daisy Ducks, 4 Queens. I really missed Queens in those Steel Song decks because I think Queens are really good, especially against those red-blue decks. Also, we play that 1 Lilo, which is also really amazing against those matchups. We play 3 Ursulas, 4 Smees, 4 Ariels, 3 Gastons. Like Gaston is like a really great card. I think like really underappreciated, and like through all the tournaments, it like slowly gets the spot in the deck he deserves. We play 3 Lawrence, 4 Pete's, 1 Naveen, which is really interesting, 4 Rapunzels, 4 Queens, and now like that 1 Ariel shift, which can like be really hard against those aggro decks and against those more aggressive decks. And also in the mirror match, you're like really good to go with that 3-8 Ariel. Of course, we play 2 of the world's greatest Criminal Mind, which is a really good card, especially if you have the Queen. You can boost up your opponent's cards to like use this card. We play 4 Let the Storm Rage On, of course, 4 Strength, 3 Zeus, and 4 Whole New Worlds. I think this is like a really classic list with like small spices in it. For example, the Ariel, And all in all, I think that combo really goes well with the queen and the world greatest criminal mind. And if that goes up, you like have a really good time with this deck, especially against those aggro matchups and especially against those red blue decks with those Lilos and the queen. It's like really good to go here. So yeah, congrats on making it to the top 16, and let's go to the next deck. Next up, we have the Emerald Steam deck by the Goats, and congrats on making it to the top 16 and also to making it to the Worlds, like anyways, because he already won one Lorcana challenge, so he's like considered automatically to be playing in the Worlds. We have a really spicy list with 20 unnings, guys. This is like really harsh, and I think the idea of this deck is like to, as the name says it, this deck name was All In. So yeah, that's what it's made for. We play 3 Cursed Merfolks, of course our 4 Diablos, one of the Go-Go Tamago, 3 Ursulas, 3 Calhouns, 2 Dog, which is like being played a lot by Zion and all the Emerald Steel players. And we play 3 Smees, 4 Diablos, 4 Prince John, 4 Ursulas, 4 Petes, 3 Muses. So he added up like 1 more Muses in this deck. We play 4 Hypnotize, 4 Sound Shields, which is really important for the discard in this deck. That's why I also think the Ursula stayed here, because removing like a song from your opponent is like really harsh for those steel songs, for example. And of course, here comes the twist. We also play 4 I'm Still Here. Chosen character gains resist +2 until the start of your next turn, and you draw a card. So with this card, you can also cycle through your deck, which is like really amazing, especially if you sing it with Ursula, like draw 2 cards for this. Of course, you play the Let the Storm Rage on, Strength for Raging Fire, and 2 Hidden Coves. I think this deck, like this list, is really interesting. It's like considered like going, I think, against those aggressive matchups and against those red-blue matchups, like which are really hard to beat, because most of the time you're like missing out some lore, and here you got all those answers for it. You got the Cursed Morpher, you got the Go-Go Tamago, you got the Mr. Smee, you also got your dog to like get a new hand, and of course you also still have your discard with those 4 Prince Johns, with those 4 Sudden Shields, with Hypnotize, and so on. You always have like the option to remove your opponent's hand, and this is like really amazing. Removing the Morph and the Beast is like a good idea, and you are like walking through a whole different path with this deck, with this idea. Maybe I would like put the Hidden Cove to 3 or even to 4, especially if I know if I have to play against a lot of red blue and a lot of ruby amethyst. But as I mentioned, if you like playing Cursed Merfolks, you're playing Mr. Smee, you're playing Calhoun, and so on, you also play the Go-Go Tamago, you always have the option to gain that extra lore at the end. So yeah, I think it's a really amazing list, really good idea. 20 unnings. I think you also like ink till 4 or maybe to 5, and that's it, because you don't have much to ink. So yeah, I think this is a great idea, and congrats. And let's go to the next deck. Next deck in our list is the second Blurle deck from Joseph Quigley, and we also like, it's a very similar deck to the previous one. Especially we have like those Donald Ducks, which are played a lot, of course the Hades and the Elsa with the shift option. The new thing here is Finders Keepers, which draws you like 3 additional cards, which is pretty good, especially for this deck. And the MacDuck Manor, which is also like putting pressure against those decks that don't have a lot of strength. For example, against those Steel Songs, it's like really hard to remove that MacDuck Manor, especially if you have cards like Val, Elsa, and so on that also like have potential removal options against your deck. So yeah, all in all, pretty good list. Congrats on making it, and let's go to the next one. Next up in our list, we have again a blue-red deck. as you can see, Blue Red made like a lot of appearances in this tournament. It's like a really consistent deck. It's like doing the job. And what's new here is like the Great Stone Dragon, which is like a good option for playing it instead of the Fishbone Quill. We also have that Prince John that allows you to play an item from your hand or a discard for free. And yeah, all in all, like it's really similar to the other ones, especially with those Maui Sharks and those Pirates Live. I think the idea, as I mentioned before, is like to get the lore from Maui Shark with those actions and with those songs. With Maleficent Dragon, you also have a removal option in the late game, and you also, of course, you have your Be Prepared and your Sisu for the late game. And for the early threats, you can remove them with your Maui or with the Sisu. And yeah, of course, for brawls, I think that's really the way to go here. And yeah, congrats on making it to the top cut, and let's go to the next one. Now let's come to the deck of the champion and the winner of this whole tournament, Edmund Chu. Congrats on winning the NA championship. As we can see, it's a Ruby Amethyst deck. Also, as in Europe, Ruby Amethyst won the tournament. Congrats on that. I think we have like a really really different pattern here. Um, the European champion played a lot of genies, played a lot of Elsas, had like was like not the classic Ruby Amethyst deck, where you like play again for control. It was more like a aggressive type of the aggressive variant of the deck. And here we can see Edmund Chu didn't take that path. He went for the straight control deck with, as you can see, no Elsas, no genies. We have our 4 rabbits, old school like. We have the whole bounce options. We have those new cards, the Diablo, and I think that's it. We just have the Diablo from the newer cards. Yeah, we play Fort Remains, which is really good. He's not going for 2 Medusas and 2 Remains. He's going for Fort Remains, 2 Sisus, 4 B preps. So the removal is here. For the early threats, we have the Flynn Rider. We have the Hand Sisu, of course, which we can shift, which we can use for the shift for the normal Sisu, and of course, which is really interesting, he also plays the library, so he has like extra card draw engine in his deck. Of course, the 4 friends and so on. Like, I really like decks like this where the player plays like 2 or 4 pieces of a card. Like, as you can see, no free. He knows what he wants. He's playing that 2 Sisus because he knows I don't need more of that. He plays like 4 B preps. He plays everything 4 times. Like, it's a really consistent deck, and it showed really well in the tournament. He won the tournament with it and removed all those other Ruby Amethyst matchups probably in the early stages of the game, because I think there was a lot of Ruby Amethyst in that tournament, but just this one made it through. Why? Because he's playing the control version and not that aggro version we already know. So he went back to the old school like control version of Ruby Amethyst and succeeded with it. So congrats on that, and let's go to the next deck. Next up in our list, we have another Ruby Sapphire deck here. Some of the cards that are really spicy here is the Queen of Hearts, which like isn't considered to be played anymore. He still plays it 3 times, which is really good for those aggro matchups. He plays 2 Goofies, which is really interesting because this character has Rush and Evasive. He's a 5/5 and costs like 6 and is an Unning. Maybe instead of the Scar, but it's like really good for those genies and for those Elsas and so on, so he can remove them really easy with that Goofy. And the last one I noticed is the Go the Distance. You can ready a chosen damaged characters of yours, and they can't quest for the rest of your turn, but you can attack with it, and you draw 1 card additionally to that. So yeah, really some spice in this list. I like the Goofy because it like really does the job, like removing those genies and so on. And yeah, congrats on making it to the top cut. Next up, we have a really interesting Dwarf Mine deck. Like, as I mentioned before, it's not like a real Steel Song deck, it's more like based on those mines and on those locations. We can see here the difference here is he plays like a John Silver, which I really like. And when you play this character, chosen character can challenge during the next turn. So you're like really good to go with some of your cards, and you're like not giving your opponent any chance to like attack your cards, which is like really good. He also plays 3 copies of the Gempo, which has like bodyguard and just like protects your characters from being removed by attacks. And last but not least, he's also playing the Rapunzel's Tower, and when the character isn't here, the character gets plus through willpower. And this is like a really strong card, and I think makes sense that this deck made it to the top 16 because like it has everything it needs. You have the protection for your deck with those Gempo and with those John Silver, and of course of the Rapunzel's Tower. And the only thing I can see here is like being easily removed by some Sisus and so on, but you also still have your Lilos, 4 copies of it, so you can always play them out. And with Piglet you have like a lot of power for it, so if you have a Piglet out and you have like 2 Lilos in your discard pile, you can like play them out, which is like really good, so your Piglet gets that +2 lore automatically. And yeah, pretty good list, and congrats on making it to the top 16. Last but not least, we have, of course, one of those green-purple decks. Really good idea here with all those 1-drops. I don't think I would play the Olaf here. I think the Pegasus is a really good option. I was also considering him playing into my Emerald Steel deck again. Of course, we have 3 Channel Box Followers, 2 Diablos, 3 Magic Brooms. I would maybe cut the Olaf and just play like 4 Diablos instead. Of course, we have the whole bounce action here going on. The bounce package is also here. We have 4 Go-Go Tamagos. We have 2 Sir Hiss, 4 Ursulas. And I think what's really interesting is that we see Lyle having a comeback here in this deck. I think Lyle is a really strong card, and I don't know why people like stop playing him. What I'm missing here is like the 7-cost Ursula, the shift option for the small Ursula, because having this threat is like really intense for all those Steel Song players and for all those other decks that can't remove so high characters. And yeah, I think this deck is really good, but I would like consider removing the Olaf completely, and maybe even remove that Pegasus and just go for the shift option with Ursula, and maybe maxing out the Kid Cloud Kicker, which is like really important in most matchups. And yeah, of course, the White Rose is also really good. With the gold, you have like a lot of passive lore gain you get here, and yeah, but still make it, and like the first day made it like to the first place. And yeah, congrats Morgan. And yeah, if you guys liked the video, leave a like, drop a comment from your favorite deck in this meta. And yeah, I'm soon dropping a whole master guide for my Emerald Steel deck. Be sure to check it out, and see you guys soon. Bye.